Hello everyone, long time no see. I know, it's been quite a while since I've posted a video and I wanted to jump in quickly and insert a clip to explain why that is. Today's video is going to be about the worst books I read in 2021, which was last year. I know a month of 2022 is already over, which is fucking crazy. Like, why is time going by so fucking fast? And also, you know, by the time I get the chance to edit and post this video, February is probably going to be almost over as well. But we're not going to think about that, okay? One step at a time, one day at a time. As I said before, we're going to be talking about the worst books that I read in 2021. These are all of my honest opinions, and there are a few popular books on this list. The first two are super popular and super hyped on booktube, in the book community in general. Like, everywhere you go, everybody and their mamas are talking about these books, and they are well loved. Not by me though. I may seem harsh throughout this video, and I will be, because I don't like not enjoying what I read, especially because I have a problem DNFing. The fact that I didn't DNF just makes me even more mad that I wasted my time on this book. But don't get offended. Let's get started. The first book on my list is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McKiston. This book is bad. So bad. So very bad. I can't even fathom how popular this book is because of how bad it is. And it's bad in terms of writing, in terms of characters, in terms of pacing, in terms of storytelling. It's just bad all around. And the thing that pisses me off is that when I started the book, I actually was enjoying it. But then as the story progressed, maybe like 15 to 20% in, I was just not vibing with it anymore. This book had so much going on in it. And you know what? I can see why a lot of people like it. You know, I can see why a lot of people love it. So this book is pitched, or a lot of people advertise this book as enemies to lovers. That is my first problem, because enemies to lovers where? Where is it? It wasn't there. Honestly, I really need people to stop calling it that, because it is an affront to this trope, and I should know, okay? But I'm not gonna get into it because that's another like 5-page essay. Just know, anytime I hear someone mention this book as enemies to lovers, I am fuming. It is not enemies to lovers. Please stop calling it that. This is why I can't trust the internet. So this is what I wrote in my notes after reading this. I thought the romance was cute, but I didn't buy it, mainly because I felt like there was no buildup. They got together super quickly, and I didn't really like them as individuals either. And it's so weird because they said all the right things, but I didn't really see any meaningful connection between them. I know if these words had been spoken by my OTP, I would have lost my marbles, but I felt nothing for these two. The romance was extremely subpar. The main character was so fucking annoying. He would never shut the fuck up. Like, I needed that man to shut the fuck up 90% of the time. He was so fucking obnoxious. And honestly, the main reason, one of many, that I didn't vibe with the main character is because the story is told in third person, but you can obviously tell that everything is in his point of view. His name is Alex, so you can tell that everything is in Alex's point of view, but it's written in third person, so it just feels like he's talking about himself in the third person. It didn't do him any sort of favors in my book. It just made him seem arrogant, self-important, very optimistic and naive, but not in a good way, not in like a self-actualization, coming of age way, but in a very in his own world, doesn't really think other people have interesting personalities type of way. I did not like that at all. Sorry if the lighting shifts throughout the video. Let's move on. Henry, so the love interest, you know, whereas Alex talked too much and had way too much to say all the goddamn time, Henry pretty much was super bland, never had anything to say. His character to me felt like, I am an American writing this British character, and this is how I think British people talk. That's all I can say about this man. The flirting in this book also was just not it. It wasn't sexy, it wasn't cute, it wasn't even romantic, it was just kind of cringy. I'm gonna read you a line. It says, "You're a mad, spiteful, unmitigated demon." And this is one of them complimenting the other. Like, this is how they flirt. You're a mad, spiteful, unmitigated demon. Whatever that means, okay?
Okay. Whatever that means.
Also, can we talk about how there was an entire election going on in the second half of the book? At the end of 2020 was the American presidential election. So coming right off of that, and in January 1st starting a book chock full of election and politics, I just expected a lot more romance, and there was just way too much politics and election talk in it. It was a mess. Also, something that Alex always did as well that pissed me off to no end, like I rolled my eyes so many times, is whenever he would say, oh, I want to help people. I'm sorry, but this man is a hardcore politician. He's into politics and he wants to go into politics, and that's like his field, and he's very passionate about it. I'm sorry if I don't believe a politician genuinely caring about people and wanting to help people. Like, even if you start out that way, that's not how it is. There was no actual like substance behind it, and it just felt like he was only saying it just to stroke his own ego. There were a few sex scenes in this, and they were, honest to God, the longest, most tedious sex scenes I've ever read. I just wanted them to get on with it. At some point I didn't even know what the fuck was going on, because it just took so long to even do one thing, and at some point I just got confused because I was like, what is happening here? I don't understand, and I don't care to understand. Overall, the entire book felt super preachy with no substance whatsoever. I have an entire Goodreads review of this book, and I will leave the link in the description below if you want to see more of my thoughts. So the next book, please don't come for me, this is another popular one. I rated this a 2 stars. It is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. To preface, so boring. Let me tell you what this book is about. So this book is basically about a grown-ass white man who works as a social worker with children with magical abilities, right? And said children aren't treated well in general human society. They're treated like freaks and like they need to be segregated from the rest of the world. After working, 30 some years in this corporation as a social worker with these magical children, he finally meets a man that changes his perspective and has him thinking that maybe these children aren't so bad after all. Now, let's replace magical children with any minority group in our world right now, and you see how bad this plot is, right? White man needs another white man to tell him that there is value in an entire group's life. How you work with these magical children for 30 years, right? And you never once thought that maybe these children don't deserve to be treated that way. You needed to fall in love with a man to tell you that. Okay. Do I need to explain why that's weird? It's not bad, it's just iffy, you know, like, it's weird. It's weird. It's weird. Let's talk about my actual issues with this book. The fact that this book was so fucking boring and so fucking long for no fucking reason. The characters are way less compelling than the author swears they are. Like, you can tell the author tries to put so much personality in them, but they each have one thing that represents them, and they just are that one thing from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. You can see the main character's journey from the first chapter. Like, you can see where it's gonna go, how it's gonna progress. You can see all of it from the very first chapter. Also, is this middle grade? Is this adult? Is this YA? You don't really know, because one minute it's very childish and super dumbed down. There is the middle grade fairy tale Nanny McPhee vibes, but the next there's also the adult innuendo tidbits in there that just kind of throw me off, which kind of leaves you feeling uncomfortable. And it's like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, guys, the centermost message of this book is that prejudice is bad. Okay, thanks, sir. I needed an almost 400-page book to tell me that. Great. It's not even about the children. It's about the man. I forgot his name, but would he have felt the same way about these children if that man hadn't been here? I don't want to get into that. To wrap this up, terrible writing, one-dimensional characters, repetitive and sanctimonious message. Also, can we talk about how unprofessional Linus was being in his reports back to the corporation that he works for? What was that? Like, how was that man not fired? The next book is The Midnight Lie. This is also a 2 stars. Boring, boring, boring. 300 pages of literally nothing. I don't even remember what this book is about, so I can't even tell you. This is sapphic, but the love interest, Sid, is like a female version of any YA guy ever. So broody, experienced, all-knowing, mysterious, pretty much unoriginal. My biggest problem with this is that nothing ever got done. like ever. It's like the main character would stumble on useful information but do absolutely nothing with it. Like she was just so focused on this damn girl. I was just confused as to whether there was a plot or not. She would find some useful information which I thought would cause a domino effect and get her to like explore more or like uncover more, but no, nothing ever happened. And you know, I get it, gay awakening and all that, but this is a book, this is a story. Like, we have to get somewhere. You have to do something, right? Like, damn, this is a fantasy on top of that. This just fell super flat. It started off good and then it just, nothing happened. Nothing happened until maybe the last 2 chapters, and that is just unacceptable. Alright, so the lighting and the angle might have changed a bit because my battery died. I'm gonna try and get through the rest of the books kind of quickly so that I can wrap this up. I was talking about the Midnight Lie. So my final point is, I honestly don't mind 2 characters spending the entire time on their honeymoon era or whatever, but at least make it worth it. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least make the romance compelling. Make it like, you know, something that I want to read about. It wasn't even all that. Like, it was kind of boring. I didn't even really see them like mesh well together. Why am I here? I'm here for a fantasy with a dash of romance. But if you're just gonna give me full-on romance and full-on like obsession and wishy-washy back and forth, let me fall in love with them. Nothing of the sort happened, and also the ending was kind of unsatisfying. The next book again is a 2 stars, and it's a sequel from a book that I really enjoyed. And it's The Edge of the Abyss, and it's the sequel of The Abyss Surrounds Us. I think I forgot who the author is, but it's gonna be on the screen. I enjoyed The Abyss Surrounds Us a lot. That book is basically about Kaz, who's like I forgot what the creatures are called in that world, but she is a trainer for these creatures, and she has her own creature to train, monster, whatever, that she trains. And one day she gets kidnapped by this pirate ship and she has to figure out how to get back to her life. And on that ship she meets this girl, I forgot her name, and you know, drama ensues. So I really enjoyed the first book. I think I gave it 4 stars. I was really excited for The Edge of the Abyss. Clearly it did not work out for me. I just thought this book was such a waste of my time. The ending of the first book was questionable. I didn't know if it made sense, and the only reason I would know if it made sense would be how the sequel progressed. And the sequel made the ending of the first book entirely pointless, and that pissed me off. Also, the romance which I enjoyed in the first book was so insufferable and exhausting and annoying. In this one, they literally kept fighting and bickering the entire time. And they kept competing against each other when they could have tag teamed their common enemy. I just don't understand why that was such a hard thing for them to do, especially because this is the second book, so they already have history from the first book. So it was just incomprehensible to me why they decided to compete against each other instead of tag teaming. That would have made a lot more sense to me. And the ending was trash too. I didn't vibe with any of it. The next book that I read is going to be very short and quick. I rated this at 2.5. No. Damn, I gave this book all that? I don't think it deserves all that. Let's say a 2. I gave it a 2, and it's The Foxhole Court. I don't remember who it's by. This book is an absolute train wreck, and I don't understand why it's so popular and so many people love it. There's like so many fan art of the characters. I don't get it. I didn't like it. I'm honestly surprised that I even finished it. I tried to get to the sequel. I couldn't get into it. The writing is terrible. The characters are terrible. There's pretty much not much motive for anything that's happening. It's just a bunch of characters thrown together, and it's a mess. Moving on. The next book is Darling by Kate Ancrum, and I rated this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. This book was all tell, no show, waste of my time, didn't really connect with the story or the characters. It was just a weird novel. This is supposed to be like a Peter Pan retelling, with Wendy spending a crazy ass night out with Peter Pan and his friends, and then shit happens, and then there's a lot of drama and a lot of things that are kept from Wendy, which then are kept from us, the audience. And so when everything comes to light, it it just seems fucking ridiculous. I thought the concept was great, but it just wasn't executed very well. The next one is It Happened One Summer, and I rated this a 1 star. This is by Tessa Bailey, and it's basically supposed to be like a Schitt's Creek inspired story where the main character, I forgot her name, is like supposed to be Alexis Rose, and she is a party girl, but something happens one day and her dad decides to like ship her off to like this ship town just to like teach her a lesson, teach her the value of money at her big age of 28. After 28 years, you now want to teach your daughter the value of money. I think you are part of the problem. I think you are to blame as well, because she should have gotten that lesson way earlier in her life. And not to take away the blame from her, because she is a grown-ass woman, but you need to do your part too as the parent. But anyways, better late than never, am I right? So he ships her off to that ship town, and obviously she meets this boat captain who's like super handsome and dreamy and whatever. I had a lot of problems with this. It was super bad, super cringy. The writing was terrible, and oh my god, some of the nastiest smut descriptions ever. And not nasty in terms of like what they were doing, but like how it was described. Every time I would read something, I would be like, why did you have to say it like that? Like, I can't. Yeah, 1 star for It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. Needless to say, this probably might be my last Tessa Bailey book because these sex scenes. Also, something that I want to mention, everything was like masculine or feminine. It was like, oh my god, this masculine chair, this feminine cup, this masculine tree, this feminine squirrel. Shut the fuck up, okay? Shut up. Moving on. The next book is After Love. I rated this a 2 star, maybe 1 star, I don't know. This was boring, pointless, waste of my time, very insta-lovey. Didn't make any sense. I just don't understand the point of that story. It's basically about this girl who dies and then in the afterlife meets her girlfriend again. And yeah, that's what the gist of the story is. I just couldn't get on board with their romance in the first place because when they met, they just fell in love after like a week. The author had so much space to develop their romantic relationship instead of making it insta-love and then just dropping us into this afterlife world that was never even really explained. We're supposed to be convinced that these two people's love survives the afterlife, that their relationship is strong enough to survive even death, right? But their initial getting together is brushed over. I just feel like there would have been a much stronger impact on the reader had we spent more time developing the actual romance and also the characters as individuals too. The love interest would talk about how she was in such a bad way when they met, but we never really got any background story. Like, it's clear that she has some familial issues with her father and the money that's in her family, but we never really get any background on that aspect of her life. We never get any background on her at all. And with the main character, same thing. Is like we meet her family in the first half of the story, but the second half pretty much doesn't mention them at all anymore. So we kind of don't even know who these characters are as individuals. So it's hard to feel for them when that happens, and it's also hard to believe that their romance would survive death because we didn't see any of it. And it kind of happened really fast. Overall, I feel like this book was super rushed and there was no character development whatsoever. I thought After Love had a great concept, but again, in continuation with, I guess, this sort of theme that I've got going on with this video, major miss on the execution. The last and final book on this list. Huge disappointment. Oh my god, I had a lot of expectations for this and I thought it was gonna be so good. Ultimately, fell super flat and I hated this book. The Darkness Outside Us by I don't remember who. I gave this a 1 star. This book honestly made me not want to read sci-fi ever again. And it's annoying because I read one of the best sci-fis ever at the beginning of the year, which I will talk about in my best books of 2021 whenever I get to that video. The main character was so fucking annoying. I had the same problem with him that I did with Alex from Red, White, and Royal Blue. So arrogant, super self-involved, super obnoxious, just thinks so so much of himself when he can't really do much. This man is supposedly the best astronaut ever, but the second he wakes up on this ship alone, he is whining, he is sad, he is depressed, he wants to go home, he misses human connection. And I'm like, you literally knew you were going on this mission by yourself. You literally knew that. How are you the best astronaut? How are you the person that was specifically chosen for this mission? But as soon as you wake up on this ship alone, you're already crying about your situation. You signed up for this. What is going on? Like, I don't get it. Anyway, it turns out obviously that he is not alone on this ship because there is another man on this ship. There are 2 people on the cover, so 2 people are involved. And as soon as he finds out that this man is on his ship, he like loses his mind. He needs to talk to this man. And I was just really put off by that behavior because he just kept nagging and annoying this man to pay attention to him, this stranger that he's never met before. He's never even seen him because they're on 2 different parts of the ship, and he is just nagging and annoying the fuck out of this man to talk to him. Very bad start, first of all. Romance was like, it was okay at times, and then at times it just wasn't. I don't want to spend too much time talking about this book, especially because my battery is flashing right now. All I'm gonna say is that this was a 1-star. This was super disappointing. I have a full review up on Goodreads, and the link to all my reviews will be in the description below if you want to go check out more of my thoughts. I'm gonna say this again, the concept of the story, the way the story progressed, I feel like it's something that I would have really enjoyed, but the execution again made it so hard for me to get on board with it because it was just done in a very distasteful way, I guess, and the ending was super corny. The one character that I actually liked was the fucking robot controlling the ship. I thought she was kind of sassy and funny. Especially when you get to the actual like meat of the story where you realize what's going on. I just thought it would have been such a good story if the execution had been stellar, but it wasn't. So yeah, those are my thoughts on The Darkness Outside Us. Again, full review in the description below. I wish I could have liked this better, but I didn't. This wraps up the worst books that I read in 2021. I'm sorry this video was kind of all over the place. I was moving around, my battery's about to die, and I didn't really explain the synopsis of any of these books. And honestly, I don't really feel too bad because these are books that I don't like, so I do not want people to read them. Some of them I genuinely forgot what they're about. That's how plotless and pointless they were. But anyway, if any of these books sound interesting and you want to go check them out, definitely do, and let me know in the comments if you've read them or if you are planning to read them. Yeah, I will see you all hopefully soon.